Hey there. So today I want to talk a little bit about Doctor Who. I want to switch gears and I want to talk about this because I found it to be quite interesting how this season was actually advertised versus how it was received. Now, if you haven't kept up with this, and really even if you haven't kept up with it, I'm sure that you heard about Jodie Whittaker being added as the Doctor. Doctor Who has never had a female Doctor, and Jodie Whittaker was there to take up the reins. Now, the BBC acted like that alone was something to talk about. That was the hype. And, it did, of course, garner headlines. There were more people out there watching it, and a lot of people, they were actually willing to look at this and to accept the idea that maybe, just maybe, you might have something interesting and innovative. Although the BBC and the way that they advertised it, it really made you wonder. I mean, the BBC has been notorious about this. Add in something like a female into a role that had been universally male dominant, and boom, that's supposed to make things better. And if you read headlines like this, well, it makes it sound like that. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who scores highest average ratings for series since 2010. According to a new report by British Telecommunication plc, Doctor Who's 11th season has earned the show's highest average TV audience for nearly a decade. Whittaker's first 10 episodes as the Doctor averaged 7.7 million viewers, which is the largest average since Matt Smith's inaugural season since 2010. Then you get into this, and I thought that this was actually very telling. Whittaker debuted as the Doctor was almost universally praised by fans and critics alike, with the series becoming certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. As the season went on, fans began to grow even more fonder of Whittaker's Doctor, something that the actress had hoped for when she stepped into the role. Now, of course, when she's talking about this, she talks about it being completely overwhelming because as a feminist, a woman, an actor, a human, and someone who wants to continually push themselves and challenge themselves and not be boxed in by what you're told you can and can't be, it feels incredible. Because that's going to be the greatest thing ever. I mean, you see this over and over again. Doctor Who, Season 11, certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody loves this thing. Or do they? I mean, when you go out and you actually look at what that means, well, it means that critics, they've stepped up and they've given it a 94%. You have the average episode rating at 91%. You have season reviews at 38. 37 of them gave that a fresh, and one of them gave it a rotten. Now, what's interesting about that is that doesn't mean that they gave it a good rating either. If you go in and you look at what is quote-unquote certified fresh, you can have a 2 out of 5 star rating that is certified fresh. That is something that has always thrown me off with these kind of shows. You go in, you look to see whether or not that's actually a good score. And the scoring, it doesn't make any sense. Well, 2 out of 5. I thought the show was kind of sloppy here. I think that it had mechanic problems and on. But since Jodie Whittaker stepped in, well, I'm going to give it a certified fresh. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Then you go into the audience score. And so far, we haven't had anyone go in and try to pump this score up, as far as I know. I mean, if you look at other shows that are out there, sooner or later, you oftentimes do have people that try to go in and they try to pump up that audience score. Say one of the actors on here, they ask for it to be. Well, people will go in, they'll bot click that, and boom, this might actually go from 30% to 70%. But right now, you're looking at 30% liked it. The average rating is a 2.1 out of 5, and you have user ratings. You're talking about 3,451. So you're not talking about a small amount of ratings. You're actually talking about quite a few when you get down to it. Now, if you look at what some people had to say about this too, not interested. I may not know art and entertainment as well as a professional critic, but I know what I like. This ain't it. The writing is terrible. The characters were two-dimensional. The Doctor usually is both bright and dark inside, and each of the Doctors before have been able to capture that difference in their own take of the Doctor. But this new one either doesn't have the acting capability or is just bad personal writing and comes across as trying to copy the 11th and 12th Doctor. It was foolish of the directors and writers to change so much and not add any real plot or depth to the show. Stop trying to deliver so much politics with such a heavy hand and maybe start trying to tell a story. I hope the next season is better, or I might as well quit now. Then you have half scores here. Horrific writing. No interest at all in writing good sci-fi, just interested in lecturing the audience on politically charged agendas. Jodie is completely miscast in this role, and it's clear she was never a Doctor fan. She has no idea how to play the role and jumps episode to episode. One episode she's imitating Smith, the next Tennant, the next she is acting like some weird 14-year-old boy. It's all over the place. It is sad that Jodie and the showrunner are carrying this once great show to the grave. It's a sad caricature of what was once terrific sci-fi entertainment TV. Girls and boys, men and women, and everything in between equally dislike the series on the whole. The high critics scores stink of more agendism, or people so blatantly out of touch with reality that their opinions collapse under their own pretense. I don't know if the Doctor will ever recover from writing this bad. I mean, you see your random 5-star within here, but I mean, when you go in and you start reading up on this. So where do I start with this dumpster fire of a season? Whittaker is seriously miscast as the Doctor. Her Tennant Smith impersonation doesn't work, and her facial contortions seem to indicate constipation. The three companions could be called the good, the bad, and the worst. Bradley Walsh is fairly good, but the other two, Ryan and Yaz, bring little to the story. The episode stories are pathetically weak. The adversaries are laughable, and pacing is slow until the mad scramble to wrap things up in the last few minutes. The writers hired had no experience in sci-fi except for one minimally experienced, and it shows. Their backgrounds range from children's book writer to political playwrights. This could explain the dumbing down of the stories and the constant political content designed to get the viewers woke to the BBC's ideology. The BBC's diversity hiring policies apparently were met when the writers and let the quality of the stories be damned. This season of Doctor Who should be written up in TV history college textbooks on how to drive away fans from a beloved institution, all in the name of PC ideology. Nice job there. Good job within it. Here's a 1.5, and I'm not going to continue going through these. I just want to give you a feel for what people are saying here. Hard to imagine, but it only took BBC and Chris here only 10 episodes to ruin a magic franchise that's been around for 55 years. Quite an achievement. Terrible writing has turned Doctor Who into a preachy and boring snorefest where the only villains are white males. Jodie Whittaker is completely miscast and can't act her way out of a paper bag. No charisma, no gravitas, a terrible Doctor. Get woke, go broke. I have to agree on what I saw from this season too. I made myself sit down and I made myself watch 5 episodes of this. I have not been able to go further because I have to say that this was a terrible Doctor Who season. I personally wondered how it would go too, and that's probably what kept me watching. So, I mean, when you're talking about controversy, yeah, it did indeed bring people in to watch. At the same time, when you're going to do something like that, maybe, just maybe, you should deliver. You know, you should actually go out. You should step that best foot forward. And the best foot forward, it should be stories that are interesting, that feel like Doctor Who, and that don't indeed reflect BBC more than the show that you're trying to watch. I mean, that's from me. And I understand the 30% here. In fact, you know, I really feel like it needs to be lower. It is a terrible show to sit down and watch. And I'm wondering how people felt about that too. 30%. I mean, do you think that it deserves that? Do you actually think that that's a little bit off? I mean, do you think that maybe it deserves a little closer to that certified fresh rating? I mean, when you look at that, if you look at some of the episode by episode scoring too, that's actually interesting as well. If you want to go through that, let me know. We can actually look at it. But this, I just thought it was interesting to talk about because, again, this was something that was advertised specifically from a social engineering perspective. It was supposed to have a specific political agenda. It was advertised as such. The BBC talked about it as such. They talked about the quote-unquote world outside your window. They went out and they insulted people, that were involved in Monty Python and on to set the stage for this stuff. And then, of course, it all fell apart. It all fell apart, and you got your 94% certified fresh. But, again, you got your 30% audience rating. Isn't that something? Anyhow, let me know what you think. If you like this kind of content, too, please consider supporting the channel. Like, subscribe. We get new content daily. If you want to go further than that, there are links within the description where you can continue to support. I would definitely appreciate that. Check those out, but also come back for new content and leave comments. I am curious how you take this. Do you think that another season could be better? Do you think that they could actually learn anything from this? Do you think that this pretty much is par for the course now? Let me know, and thank you.